clinical setting, a sterile environment with some rather daunting bits of medical kit. So talk us through what happens next.
So the first part of the procedure is local anaesthetic is applied, so just your hand there.
The future is a wave of a hand away. In case you missed it, here it is again. This is a whole new level of security. No keys or access cards, difficult to steal and copy, but the technology requires a certain level of commitment that's not for the faint-hearted. So this is where the microchip implant story begins, for those who want them at least. A clinical setting, a sterile environment with some rather daunting bits of medical kit. So talk us through what happens next.
So the first part of the procedure is local anaesthetic is applied, so just your hand there. Then we'll use a scalpel just to make a small incision just there. And then finally it's the rather large needle applicator, and that will be pushed just.
I'll stop you there. For me, in my case at least, I think everyone really wants to know is, does it really hurt?
Completely pain-free.
The UK firm Biotech offers implants to businesses and individuals. It's fitted 150 implants in the UK so far, and the number's rising.
Assistive technology for disabled people, we implant. Banking, security, general users, so contactless payments, passport data, all can be stored on these microchips and embedded in your hand. Comes down to convenience, I suppose, for a lot of people. It's very hard to lose your hand. It's easy to lose your keys, your wallet, so a lot of certain demographics want that convenience.
This is one of several implant firms reportedly in discussions with British financial and legal companies. The names of the companies are being closely guarded. This isn't new technology. Microchips have been implanted in pets for many years, but the prospect of implanting them in employees has sparked concerns from trade unions.
Microchipping gives even more control and power to the employer. And that comes with inherent risks and dangers. Those risks and dangers shouldn't just be ignored by an employer. They need to take those into consideration, and they definitely shouldn't be pressuring any workers into being microchipped.
Biotech companies say the technology should be voluntary and that people must have a right to privacy. But with one Swedish firm, Biohacks, claiming to have already implanted 4,000 people, there are worries microchipping could eventually become the new normal. Societies embrace the mobile phone, making us easy to track on a daily basis. But by implanting microchips, there may be few places left to truly escape from technology. Neve Barker, Al Jazeera, London.
Shalom, 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 shalom. First I want to give all praises
doesn't just happen overnight.
To Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim, Rakak, Kodesh. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone. We're leading this word in truth and spirit and sincerity. And salutations to all the righteous brothers on the highways and byways that are bringing out this word in the name of Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, in truth and in spirit and sincerity. Shalom to the Akiyams and shalom to the Akwafs. All praises. As you can see, today we're going to talk a little bit about the mark again. The word the mark. We're going to talk a little bit about the word the mark, the microchip, the mark of the beast. But we're going to particularly look at the word mark in the Greek, in the three different spellings that it has in the Greek, the word the mark. Now, as we know, the mark of the beast is the microchip. It isn't anything else but the microchip. And we know the word mark in the book of Revelations, chapter 13, verse 16, in the Greek means charagma. So when we read here, and he causes all both, small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark, a charagma, in their right hand or in their foreheads. And that no man might buy or sell, say he that has the mark has the charagma, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. here is wisdom. Let him that has understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, which in the Greek is Chi Psi Stigma. All right. So we know the word mark in the Greek is charagma, right? He that has the mark, charagma.
Strong's G 5480. Charagma. Charagma.
And we know it means a stamp or an imprinted mark. That's what it means, a stamp or imprinted mark. Now if we look at the word, now we're going to go to the word 666, all right? Which is in the Greek Chi Psi Stigma. 666 in the Greek.
Strong's G 5516. Chi Psi Stigma. Chi Psi Stigma.
So when we go to the root of the word Chi Psi Stigma, it brings us to the word stigma.
Strong's G 4742. Stigma. Stigma.
Stigma. Right. Now when we look at that word stigma, in the Greek, it says a mark pricked in or branded upon the body. To the ancient Oriental usage, slaves and soldiers bore the name or the stamp of their master or commander branded or pricked, cut into their bodies to indicate which master they belong to. So we know it's something they're going to cut and put into your body. This is how we know it is the RFID chip. All right? It is the microchip. So we're showing you from the Greek word. It means this word, Chi Psi Stigma, the 666, which is going to be on the mark. The 666 represents the barcode, right? So you understand that's on the mark. So we've got barcodes. Every barcode, it has that mark. All right? Middle one. On every barcode, you can check every barcode in your house. You have these 2 bars at the beginning, 2 at the middle, 2 at the end, which are exactly the same length, which each equate to the numerical number 666. Every item, everything you buy in the shop has a barcode. Everything. So will the microchip. The microchip will have its barcode on it as well, just like every other item that's produced by manufacturers has a barcode. Right? These 3 marks on the barcode, Chi Psi Stigma, are the numerical representation of the number 6. Now, there's only one other word in the Bible that refers to the word stigma. All right? And we're going to show you it here. In the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 17. So it says here, the book of Galatians chapter 6 verse 17, from henceforth let no man trouble me, for I bear in my body the marks of the Lord Yahushai. So now we're going to look at what that word marks there means. All right? Those are the marks. Remember, the Lord had the marks from the boring of the crucifixion through his hands, through his feet, and through his side. He had 5 marks in him, right? He was bored through his hands, his feet, and they put a spear in his side to make sure he was dead when he was on the cross, so they didn't break his bones, because the prophecy says that they shall not break a bone in his body. So they speared him to make sure he was dead, because normally when they crucify you, to make sure you're dead, they break your bones. They break your knees, the bones in your knees and your hips, to make sure you're actually dead. That's what they normally do. All right, but they didn't do that to Yahushua, because the prophecy says not a bone shall be broken in his body. So they put a spear in him. They put a mark in him, another mark in him. So this is what this is referring to here. From henceforth let no man trouble me, for I bear in my body the marks of the Lord Yahushua. All right. So now we look at that word marks here. That word marks here is the same, again, in the Greek, stigma. A mark pricked or branded into the body, all right? The same word that they used to describe the marks in the Lord's body, because it was an actual mark, they pierced him, is the same word that we have here. 666, kai stai stigma. It's the actual same word. This actual same word that's used here in Galatians 6 and 17. From henceforth let no man trouble me, for I bear in my body the marks of the Lord Yahushai. So, as you can see, same marks here, same word, the same Strong's translation, G4742. So we know it's an actual physical mark, a physical mark that's going to be branded into the body. It's not a spiritual mark. The mark of the beast is not a spiritual mark. It's not the Vatican. It's not another religion. It is a physical mark they're going to brand in. It's a physical mark that they're going to put on you. And that mark is the microchip. That's why it says, for it is the number of the man, and his number is 603 kai stai stigma. Because that mark is on every barcode. And every microchip will have a barcode. And we know the word mark is, go back down here, in the Greek, charagma. So for anybody to tell you it's anything else but what we see here on the screen. Let's give it this ad.
The future is a wave of a hand away. In case you missed it, here it is again. This is a whole new level of security. No keys or access cards, difficult to steal and copy, but the technology requires a certain level of commitment that's not for the faint-hearted. So this is where the microchip implant story begins, for those who want them at least. A clinical setting, a sterile environment, with some rather daunting bits of medical kit. So talk us through what happens next.
So the first part of the procedure is local anaesthetic is applied, so just your hand there. Then we use a scalpel just to make a small incision just there. And then finally it's the rather large needle applicator, and that will be pushed just
And that applicator, that goes back to, when he shows that needle applicator, when we go into the word charagma, a stamp on imprinted mark, we go to the root meaning of the word charagma, which is charax.
Strong's G 5482. Charax. Charax.
It says here, a pale or a stake, a palisade. A pale or a stake or a palisade. All right? This is what, if we look at a palisade, pale or a stake or a palisade. These are images of palisades. Actually, stayed where it was, sorry. These are, as you can see, palisade. Over here, palisade. Something's called a stake wall or a paling. It's typically a fence or defensive wall made from iron or wooden stakes. So that's why John the Revelator used the word charax charagma, to describe the mark because it represents the palisade. Right? The whole device of implementing the mark of the beast resembled a palisade, just like what we see here. Palisade, sometimes called a stake. Oops, I keep meant to do that. Sometimes called a stake wall or a paling. It's typically a fence or defensive wall. So we go back here. Where are we? Sorry. Karatsma, a pale or a stake, a palisade. That's the root meaning of the word mark, karak. So when you look at the device that he's looking to use to implement the mark of the beast, it resembles the shape of a palisade. If you look at the top of the needle head, if you look at it, it resembles a palisade. Remember, when John the Revelator saw this in his vision and when he saw people being microchipped, the only thing that he said it looked like to him was a palisade, like a stake. It looks like a palisade. Sometimes called a stake wall. This is what it resembled to him, a palisade. That's what it resembled to John the Revelator, a palisade. So this is why what we have to understand is that 2,000 years ago, they had no idea of a hypodermic needle. All right, so he's not going to say hypodermic needle or needle. They had no idea what those things were. So what it resembled to him was a palisade. That's why he used the word charagma, which goes back to the root word charax, which means palisade, a pale or a stake. Because that's what it was. It was like they was putting a stake into you. So then when he uses the word, when we go back to the word stigma, that's why he said 666, which is stigma. It's not actually 666, it means something. That word stigma, the root meaning of that word stigma, when you go to stigma, it meant something. So this is why he used that. This is why when he says, let's just quickly bring it up again. We have to truly understand why he used these words to describe the microchip. So when he says here is the wisdom. Let him that has wisdom, let him that has understanding count the number of the beast. So John the Revelator says, for it is the number of a man. And that number is 603 score and 6. Because that number 666 stigma represented back then in the Greek, stigma meant a mark that was pricked or branded upon the body. So he saw in the vision a mark that was being pricked or branded into the body. This is why he uses those words to describe what he saw. He's never seen a hypodermic needle before. So he uses those particular words to describe to the best of his knowledge the palisade, which represented the delivery system, which is the needle. And then he said they was putting something into, they was pricking something into you, stigma. That's why he said 666, that had the name. Let him that has understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and the number is 603 score and 6. This is why he specifically used that number to describe what he was seeing. He saw them using something that was similar to a palisade, and they was marking you. So it was stigma, stigma. They was putting a mark on you. What they would do back in the days of the Romans, back during the biblical times, a mark pricked or branded in upon the body. To ancient oriental usage, slaves and soldiers bore the name or the stamp of their master, or a commander branded or pricked, cut into their bodies to indicate what master or general they belong to. So that's what that goes back to. That's what he saw. So you've also got, so you have to truly understand that when he saw in his vision, this is what he saw, but that was the best how he could describe it. He said it was like a karugma, which was the palisade. So that's why he would use the word here. And he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, because he saw all walks of life coming to get this microchip in his vision. To receive a mark, he said they were receiving a karugma, a karux. It looks like a karux. It looks like a palisade. They was receiving something, right? He said it looks like a palisade. They was receiving a mark, which is the delivery system, because that's what the needle looks like, a palisade from a fence. So he saw it, all walks of life in his vision. Rich, the poor, the free, the bond. So he saw prisoners, people in jail that was getting microchipped. That's why he said free and bond. He saw people in prison, behind prison bars, being microchipped. So this kind of tells us that at some point there's going to be a mass event going on in terms of them pushing out this microchip on a global scale. There's going to be a mass event where millions of people are going to be microchipped around the same time. And then he's part of his vision went to when he says, well, everywhere people was going, unless they had that microchip, unless they had that mark, that palisade, they couldn't buy or sell. So he would have seen people going into stores and places to buy stuff and couldn't get it unless they was able to show that they had that palisade. And that's why he said that in his vision, he says, here is wisdom. He said, let him that has understanding count the number of the beast. He said, listen, let me tell you. He's saying to you, listen, I'm going to tell you what it is. And he says that number is 603 which represents Kai Stigma, which represents having something put into you to show which slave or master you belong to. The mark of the beast is not religion, philosophy, the Vatican, an idea, sin. And when we say it's not sin, once you receive the mark, you've committed a sin. But the mark itself is not sin. If you understand what I'm saying, once you've received the mark, then you've committed sin, because now you've committed sin. You've become part of those that are going to be destroyed. You've committed a sin to death, but it's not actual sin itself. The microchip is the mark of the beast. And I don't understand how people don't get this. Back in the days, is that all they called it? So back in biblical days, this is how they marked you. It says then, Exodus 21 verse 6. Then his master shall bring him unto the judges. He shall also bring him to the door, or unto the doorpost. And his master shall what? Shall bore his ear through with an awl. And he shall what? He shall serve him forever. Deuteronomy 15 and 17. Then thou shalt take an awl and thrust it through his ear unto the door. This is how they marked you back in Roman times, biblical times, back in the ancient world. They put an awl in your ear, and ye shall be thy servant forever. And also unto thy maidservant thou shalt do likewise. So that's how they marked them back then. But he wasn't seeing, in his vision, he wasn't seeing people getting an awl put through their ears. So if we look at that word awl, in the Hebrew, matasa.
Strong's H, 4836. Mertseah. Mertseah.
Awl. It's a boring instrument. So if we look at what an awl is, so you can see, See if we can get some images of this, if it's going to do it properly. That will show you. So here you go. This is a boring instrument. This is what they would do. Here you go. It's a perfect one. It's like an ice pick. That's an O. That's what they bored their ears with. And then they would put something through their ears to show that they're a slave and that they belong to a certain household. And it was a permanent fixture. So it wasn't to say that when they received this old, when they was bored with the old and had the earring or the ring they put through their ears to show what slave master they belonged to. So this is what they did in the ancient world. They bored your ears with an old, right? It's a boring instrument. So he didn't see an old, he saw something in his vision that looked more like, this is why he said, he called it karaks, a palisade. He said it looked like a palisade, like a post. That's what it looked like. That's why he used the word ma karagma, to receive. When you receive something, it's physical. In the right hand. You're not receiving something spiritual in your right hand. You're receiving something physical. It's not an idea. It's not a philosophy that you're receiving in your right hand or in your foreheads. It's something physical because you're going to receive it in your right. And when it says your right hand, it means your right hand or your left hand. But it's not an idea. It's something physical. And I can't understand how people can't see it. This is what it is. It is the microchip. See again.
Requires a certain level of commitment that's not for the faint-hearted. So this is where the microchip implant story begins, for those who want them at least. A clinical setting, a sterile environment, with some rather daunting bits of medical kit. So talk us through what happens next.
So the first part of the procedure is local anaesthetic is applied, so just your hand there. Then we'll use a scalpel just to make a small incision, just there. And then finally, it's the rather large needle applicator, and that will be pushed just.
I'll stop you there for me, in my case at least.
This is what John the Baptist saw.
Does it really hurt?
Completely pain-free.
The UK firm Biotech offers...
That's what he saw. The microchip. The palisade, the delivery device, the microchip. And whatever it had, it said you needed it. It said it was something they pricked inside you. That's why the word stigma means it was a mark. He saw them pricking and branding people on their body. This is what he saw in his vision. That's why the word is used there, Chi Stai Stigma, 666. And we know every single item you buy in the store has a barcode. And every barcode has these 3 digits on it. The 2 lines, the longer lines at the beginning, then you've got the 2 longer lines in the middle, and then 2 longer lines at the end. You can check everything. You can look on anything you've got a barcode on at home, whether it's your TV, product, any product you bought from the shop, bread, rice, eggs. Just look on the barcode and you will see. You've got 2 longer lines at the beginning, 2 in the middle, 2 in the end. And each one of those represent a numerical number 6. So every microchip will have a barcode because it's a product that's going to be sold. So this is what he saw. He saw the delivery system. He saw the palisade, and he says in his vision, "Here is wisdom. Let him that has understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and that number is 666, which is Chi Stai Stigma." I don't see how people can't get this. But like I said, only the elect are truly going to understand this and know this is the mark of the beast, and know not to take this when they start rolling this out on full scale. That's exactly what he saw. Because the scripture says, if we go back to, and this is why the only other place in the Bible it speaks of that is Galatians 6 and 17. Because those were physical marks that Yahushua had, right? When they pierced his hands and his feet and his side, those were physical marks. So it's the same word it's referring to there, stigma, marks. From henceforth let no man trouble me, for I bear in my body the marks, the stigma of our Lord Yahushua. Physical marks, not spiritual marks. These are literal marks. So the microchip is something literal that they're going to prick into you, to stick. See, it says there, stitzo, to stick or to prick. Stitzo, stigma, from the primary word stitzo, to stick, i.e. to prick. A mark, incised or punched, for recognition of ownership. Ain't this what he's doing? Incise, punch, that's what he's using this needle to do. To punch, put you. That's what's going to punch you. Incise, that's what's going to go inside, is the microchip. So, it's an easy one-on-one, but let's just pull out a couple more scriptures before we shut this down. So, the Lord said, just a reminder. And once again, the only other place there's words for marks in the New Testament, you've got it in the book of Philippians, right? Oops, P-H-I. Go on, Philippians chapter 3, verse 14. And he says here, I press towards the mark for the prize of the high calling of the Most High, Yahushua. Now this is, the Greek word for this is skopos, which means something totally different to the other Greek word mark, charagma. So it says, I press towards the mark for the prize of the high calling. It goes back to what I said, we speak about before, when I said to the word world. There's 3 different meanings for the word world: ion, age, and oikomen. There's different meanings for the word mark in the Greek. This time it's skopos, right? When he says here, I press forward for the mark, it's skopos. It's a different meaning.
Strong's G 4649. Skapas. Skapas.
Which means an observer, a watchman. The distance mark looked at. The goal or the end. See, the goal or end one has in view. It's a different meaning, skopos. An observer, a watchman. So when he says, I press towards the mark for the prize of the high calling of the Most High, Yahushua Mashiach, in Yahushua Mashiach, right? I press towards the mark. That's the goal. That's his goal, right? That's why it says here, an observer, the goal. That was his goal. That was a distant mark. So that was his goal. That's what he was looking to. He wants to get to that goal. I press towards the mark for the price. He wants to reach that goal. For the price of the high calling. He wants to reach the goal to receive the high calling of the Most High in Yahushua Mashiach. That was his goal. Right? When Paul wrote to the Philippians. And then if we go, see it, 3:17. And then in Philippians 3:17, so if we jump down to verse 17, it says, Brethren, be followers together of me, and mark them which walk so as ye have us, and mark them which walk so as ye have us for an ensample. So that's another different meaning. That's scopio, right? If I remember. Scopio in the Greek, which has another different meaning for the word mark.
Strong's G 4648. Scapeo. Scapeo.
Scapeo. Scapeo. So there's a different meaning for this word mark in the Greek. To look, to mark, to fix one's eyes upon. to direct one's attention to look, to take heed, so to mark. So it says, so like you say that mark that person, man, because he's no good, man. So like you're telling someone to remember that person, so mark them because he's nothing but bad news. Or mark that girl, man, because that girl is nothing but bad news. So keep your eye on her. That's why it says to fix one's eye upon, to keep your eye on them, to direct one's attention to, right? Or to anyone. So that's a term you would use. Paul used it again here in Romans 16 and 17. Now I beseech you, brethren, mark them, which cause division and offences contrary to the doctrine. And that's what we are doing today. We are marking them that are causing divisions and offences contrary to the doctrine which ye have learned, and avoid them. That's the spirit that brought us to that one there. Because that's what you need to do. You need to mark those people, those that are teaching you and telling you that the mark of the beast is anything else but the RFID chip. You need to mark them, because those Israelites are causing division and offences contrary to the doctrine. The doctrine shows us categorically that the mark of the beast is the RFID microchip. Every word you look at, every breakdown you look at of that shows you that it is something physical. It's not spiritual. It's not the Vatican. It's not the Pope. It's not an image. It's not a belief. It's not sin. But if you take it, you would have committed sin. The mark of the beast is the microchip. So this word here is saying mark them, watch them, mark those people, mark those Israelite camps that are telling you that's causing division and offences contrary to the doctrine which ye have learned, and avoid them. Avoid those that are teaching you that the mark of the beast is anything else but the microchip. Avoid them. So that's the other word for mark in the Greek. Skopeo. There are different meanings to the different word mark, but the one in Revelations 13 and 16 is karagma, goes back to the word karax, which means palisade, which means to cut and imprint something into you. 666 kaistai stigma. So the Lord said, let's hit it. We're going to go to, we did that, we went through that. Revelations, I don't want to go to 16. So this is the outcome, family. And I know you know this, but this is the outcome. For those people that are going to accept the microchip, that are going to accept the mark, the physical mark. It's not sin. Sin has been around from the beginning of time. But if you take the mark, you would have committed sin. Anybody that's telling that the mark of the beast is sin, or worshipping the devil, or worshipping Satan, is talking absolute foolishness. Anybody that tells that the mark of the beast is the image, this society, Babylon, Rome, the reincarnation of the Roman Empire, or the Pope, or the Vatican, or its religion, they're talking total BS. It is a physical thing they're going to put into you, and you're going to need it in the new global world order to buy and to sell, because everything is going to go from physical, in terms of money-wise, to digital. Everything's going to go digital. They're going to get rid of the current money systems, so you're not able to use coins and notes to buy stuff. Everything's going to go digital. So this is where the microchip's going to play a massive part in this new system. It's going to hold your passport, your driving license, your criminal records, your health record, your employment record. It's going to have your travel record on it. It's going to be a digital wallet. It's going to be all things. And this is why I say that this COVID-19, this vaccination bullshit that they're pushing out there, is all about collapsing the economy, to hit the reset button, to introduce the new digital economy, digital money system, where the mark of the beast, where the microchip is going to play a forefront of that new system. And that's what people must understand. But for those of you that accept that mark, for those of you that accept the microchip, the RFID chip, The scripture says, and I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the 7 angels, go your ways and pour out the vials of the wrath of the Most High upon the earth. And what's the vials of the wrath of the Most High? The judgment. What's in those vials? Intercontinental ballistic missiles are in those vials. It's the nuclear destruction. And the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth. And they fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast. Because that tells you, again, many people that are going to be microchipped are going to die from some type of infectious disease. It's going to cause some sort of infection on a mass thing. That's going to kill off a lot of people. A lot of people are going to die, not as soon as they get it, but maybe 6 months or a year into it. A lot of people are going to be dropping down, dying from receiving that mark. It's going to cause some type of infection. So the scripture says, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had what? Had the mark of the beast. And upon them which worship his image. The image is the system, democracy. Esau's system that is built up based on the reincarnation of the Roman and the Babylonian Empire. That's what the image is. The image of the beast is the system. The image of the beast is Christianity. You know, like when I say Christianity, we're talking about the church, Catholic, Protestant, Jehovah's Witness. That's the image of the beast. The image of the beast is democracy, the voting and going in and voting for your councillor, your MP, your senator, your congressman. The image of the beast is accepting homosexuality, transgender, bigender, this gender, that gender, all kind of gender. That's the image of the beast. It's his whole system. Part of the image of the beast is white Jesus, because you're worshipping this devil in their demonic churches. That's the image of the beast. But the mark of the beast is physical. Physical. Revelations, a couple more before we shut this down. We don't need to go too much into this. Revelations chapter 20, verse 4. And I saw the thrones, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were what? That were beheaded for the witness of Yahushua and for the word of the Most High. As we've always said, some of us will die in this truth. We pray that we make it all the way to the end and that we see the salvation, that we see the destruction. But some of us will die in this truth because the Bible tells us so. That we just pray that the Lord spares us to witness the salvation and the judgment, to be here, to see the destruction, to witness the chariots, to witness the missiles, to witness the downfall of Esau, Edom's kingdom, and the bringing in of the kingdom of heaven in the name of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. We pray that we're all going to be here to witness it, the elect. But some of us will die in this truth, just like it says here. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahushai and for the word of the Most High, and which had not worshipped the beast. The beast is what? The system. The beast is the European Union, NATO and America, and this Roman Babylonian system called democracy, which they've implemented on a global scale. Every country has parliaments, has MPs or senators or congressmen or councillors. All these countries have it. The only ones that don't have it, but they do have it, but they have a monarch there as well, side by side with this parliamentary system. But all of these countries have the beast system installed. The beast is Esau, Edom, the Edomites, NATO, the European Union, and America's the head of NATO. All these countries have this so-called white man, the beast system installed in some form or shape. So it says, and them which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, his philosophies, his system. I said that before. His image is his whole system, this whole Roman, Babylonian reincarnation system that we live under today. And neither, listen carefully, and neither had received his mark. So it's got to be physical because it says received his mark. If we look up the word received, let's just quickly look. Just for argument's sake, what does the word receive mean? Received, widely accepted as authoritative or true. What do you mean by receive? Let's see what it's got here. Receive is an adjective that refers to something that is largely accepted as true or good. It also the past particle of the verb receive. If you rely on received wisdom, you might not even come up with the original idea. So it says here, refers to something that is largely accepted. All right? Received. So the prophecy says, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. And they lived and reigned with Yahweh 1,000 years. So you're going to accept something. It's got to be something they're going to give you. And that is the actual physical mark. That's why we went through the word stigma. It's not hard to work this out. This is the mark of the beast. No ifs, no buts, no maybe. This is the mark of the beast.
That's not for the faint-hearted. So this is where the microchip implant story begins.
Yes, this is where it begins.
For those who want them, at least. A clinical setting, a sterile environment, with some rather daunting bits of medical kit. So talk us through what happens next.
So the first part of the procedure is local anaesthetic is applied, so just your hand there. Then we use a scalpel just to make a small incision just there. And then finally it's the rather large needle applicator, and that will be pushed just.
I'll stop you there. For me, in my case at least, I think everyone really wants to know is, does it really hurt?
Completely pain-free.
The UK firm Biotech offers implants to businesses and individuals. It's fitted 150 implants in the UK so far, and the number's rising.
Assistive technology for disabled people, we implant. Banking, security, general users, so contactless payments, passport data, all can be stored on these microchips and embedded in your hand. Comes down to convenience, I suppose.
Yeah, he said, all could be embedded on the microchip and stored in your hand. He went for the whole list of things that it could be used for. Listen to him again.
Numbers rising.
Assistive technology for disabled people, we implant. Banking, security, general users, so contactless payments, passport data, all can be stored on these microchips and embedded in your hand. Comes down to convenience, I suppose, for a lot of people. It's very hard to lose your hand. It's easy to lose your keys, your wallet, so a lot of certain demographics want that convenience.
This is one of several implant firms reportedly in discussions with British financial and legal companies. The names of the companies are being closely guarded.
See? The names of the company being closely guarded. But like I said, that is the chip there. That is the mark of the beast in his hand. It's not philosophy, it's not religion, it's not no other thing that people can tell you. It is the RFID microchip. So, on that note, I pray this was an edifying lesson. Once again, to remind you family, that this is on the horizon and is going to be pushed out on a global scale. And I believe Esau Edom is going to, like I said, it's the collapsing of the current system is going to enable them to push this out very quickly once they've collapsed the current monetary fiat money systems alongside the world, the global economy. Watch and see. So, I pray this was an edifying lesson to all the brothers and sisters that tune in live. And for those of you that may tune in later, as I always say, it's all about enjoying this road to the end. We call ourselves the hopeful elect. We give all praises and glory to our Father and to the Son, Yahweh Shai. Kwam Yasharala, Rakata Yahweh, Rakata Yahweh Shai, Shalom Akayam, Shalom Akwas. Keep the faith, keep reading your Bible, keep following the Lord's commandments and statutes to the best of your ability, because we can't follow them all, because we're living in Babylon. Keep your faith and your trust in Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai. That's all I can say. All praises and glory To the Father, Yahweh, and to the Son, Yahweh Shai. Shalom, shalom, shalom.